Hello everyone and welcome back to Adda 247's Vertical of Regulatory Bodies. This is Arushi here, your faculty for General Awareness for Regulatory Body Examinations, that is RBI, SEBI and NABARD. So let's just begin with today's session, which is about the resolution of Monetary Policy Committee given by the RBI for 2022-23. You all know about the given economic scenario. There is a persistent geopolitical crisis going on around the world. There is a hike in crude oil prices. India is witnessing a hike in food inflation as well. So what the future holds for the Indian economy? What resolution did the Monetary Policy Committee take? But before discussing all the overview that we are going to, analyze, we should get back to the basics, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we use this opportunity to revise and brush up our very basic concepts? Why not? Why can't RBI face to examination ask you basic conceptual questions as well? You never know. तो ये सेशन ना ही आपके डिस्क्रिप्टिव पेपर में काम आएगा, इट विल ऑल्सो हेल्प यू इन MCQs, इट विल हेल्प you in revising and brushing up your very basic concepts regarding monetary policy tools, key differences, key parameters, and over and above that इंडियन इकोनॉमी का एक तरह से स्टेटस अपडेट आप ले लीजिए. I will update you on the status of Indian economy. Abhi, Department of Economic Affairs under the Ministry of Finance, it recently published a report on the key challenges that the Indian economy is facing and the way forward. So, in this session, we will have a glimpse of that report. It is a 40-page long PDF. There is no need to go through that. But it is important to have a bird's eye perspective on what the Indian economy is going through right now. Okay, so let's, before we start with today's session, let's have some Monday morning motivation, or not Monday morning, but let's have some morning motivation. Success comes to you not because you want it. Success comes to you because you do the right things, you take the right decisions. You all must be aware about Jaggi Vasudev, better known as Sadhguru. He has been conducting safe soil sessions and seminars across the country. He was in New Delhi, he was in Lucknow, various places. You all must be aware. So this quote is by him only. So what does this basically mean? Success does not come to you because you want it. Of course, we all want to crack RBI Grade B exam. We all want to be at that position. We all want to be deputy governors, and then we all want to be promoted to governors. We all want to clear civil service examinations. We all want to be deputy commissioners. We want to get promoted as IAS officers. Of course, we all want that. We all want success. We all want to reach at that pedestal in life that we aim for, that we work for. But is only wanting enough? Of course not. Doing the right things. And these right things are not always easy. I'm not saying that आपको हर level पे struggle करना पड़ता है. Hard work is not the theme today. Hard work, everyone has realized, is a sure shot recipe for failure. It is smart work, it is conscious work, it is attentive work, right? So, doing the right things is not always easy. Taking the right decisions is not always easy. I'm not saying that you stop having fun. I'm not saying that you sacrifice and give up on your life. But maintaining that level of discipline, completing all your targets in time, that is the right thing to do on a priority basis. And sometimes to do those right things, yes, you have to sacrifice, you have to give up on some things. It is painful, but in the long run, it leads you towards the right direction. So, yes, you have to deal with the compromises that comes along the path of success. So, success comes because you do the right things. You have to be conscious at every step that you take. Okay, so I hope it was a little insightful. Okay. So, yes, of course, you can download our app Adda 247 from Google Play Store. You can solve all the test series. और ना ही आपको टेस्ट सीरीज सॉल्व करने को मिलेगा. You will get everything under the sun that can be important for you guys from the exam point of view, right from study material to test series to exam related notifications, everything. If you want to be stay updated 24/7, download Adda 24/7 from our Google Play Store. Okay, and of course join us on Telegram group. अगर इस स्लाइड का, इस सेशन का आपको पीडीएफ चाहिए, इस सेशन का आपको पीडीएफ चाहिए, तो आप लोग ज़रूर टेलीग्राम ग्रुप हमारा ज्वाइन करिए. You will get everything that you like. सबका पीडीएफ आपको वहाँ पे मिल जाएगा. Okay. Yes, so this is the theme of the session today, resolution of the Monetary Policy Committee 2022-23. तो ये मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमिटी है क्या? सबसे पहली बात, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी क्या होती है? मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी, यू शुड नो दैट it is a set of tools, it is a set of measures taken up by the central authority of any country to maintain macroeconomic stability. मैक्रोइकोनॉमिक वेरिएबल्स में स्टेबिलिटी मेंटेन करने के लिए मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी का यूज़ करता है सेंट्रल बैंक of any country, और हमारी कंट्री का सेंट्रल बैंक है रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया, दैट वाज एस्टैब्लिश्ड अंडर द आरबीआई एक्ट ऑफ 1934. सो मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी के कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट टूल्स होते हैं. सम ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट टूल्स, यू ऑल आर ऑलरेडी अवेयर ऑफ दैट. कैश रिजर्व रेशियो, स्टैट्यूटरी लिक्विडिटी रेशियो, ऑल लिक्विडिटी एडजस्टमेंट फैसिलिटीज, ये सब ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशंस में आते हैं, राइट. शॉर्ट टर्म रेपो रेट, नए इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स आए हैं लाइक मार्जिनल स्टैंडिंग फैसिलिटी, स्टैंडिंग डिपॉजिट फैसिलिटी. वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट ईच ऑफ दीज टूल्स इन शॉर्ट, because I am assuming कि भाई you all must already be aware of that. This is just a revision session, this is just a session to brush up your skills, and this is an opportunity to erase all the misconceptions. कहीं भी आपको कोई भी, for example repo rate, maybe what you think what repo rate is, it is not actually it. Maybe what you think bank rate it is not actually it. So there is no harm in going through it, right? So we will go step by step. पहले हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे हम मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी का ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, व्हाई वाज इट फॉर्म्ड. वी विल डिस्कस व्हाट इज इन्फ्लेशन टारगेटिंग. वी will discuss some important monetary policy tools at the disposal of the Reserve Bank of India, and then onwards, and then we will talk about the resolution. भाई monetary policy committee जो 8th of June को जिसका सिटिंग हुआ था, monetary policy committee ने क्या रेजोल्यूशन लिया और क्यों लिया, why. And then we will have a look on the monthly economic report of by the Ministry of Finance. और क्यों इस मंथ की monthly economic report important है? Because of the geopolitical crisis that is going on, because of the high rate of inflation that is going on, and the key challenges that lie before the Indian economy. क्योंकि ये मंथली पॉलिसी रिपोर्ट है, हर मंथ पब्लिश होती है, बट हर मंथ का इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं होता है. व्हाई ओनली दिस मंथ? बिकॉज द challenges that the Indian economy is facing are not usual challenges. These are some unusual challenges under unforeseen circumstances. Let's go through it step by step. Okay. मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी आरबीआई एक्ट 2016 में अमेंड हुआ था, एंड थ्रू दिस अमेंडमेंट it empowered the central government to form a monetary policy committee to achieve the target of to achieve the objective basically of inflation targeting. ठीक है, ये आर्टिकल है, आर्टिकल 45ZB. आर्टिकल 45ZB empowers central government of India to constitute a monetary policy committee. 6-member committee होती है. Of course 6-member committee होती है. Obviously RBI governor will be the ex-officio chairman, right? Deputy governor is in charge of the monetary policy. Officer from banks, it is to be nominated by the central board of the RBI. यानी कि RBI का जो central board होता है, that constitutes of the RBI governor, that constitutes of RBI deputy governor and some important officers who are at that top authority level. They form the central board and they nominate an officer from the bank on the eligibility criteria or based on the performance and excellence. All these criteria the committee decides. Okay, and the central government also appoints a member, appoints 3 persons are also appointed by the central government. Okay, so स्ट्रक्चर से ही आप समझ सकते हो, कि जो मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमिटी है, इट डज नॉट हैव अ रोल ऑफ आरबीआई अलोन, बट ऑल्सो द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ऑल्सो प्लेज अ वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट पार्ट ऑफ इट. ऐसा क्यों है कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ऑल्सो नॉमिनेट्स 3 persons टू द मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमिटी? वेरी सिंपल सिचुएशन. मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक स्टेबिलिटी जो होती है वर्सेस इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. हमेशा ऐसा नहीं होता कि आरबीआई की मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कॉम्प्लीमेंट्स इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, द इकोनॉमी इज डूइंग वेल, द इकोनॉमी इज ग्रोइंग, देयर इज अ सर्ज इन डिमांड इन इकोनॉमी, देयर इज अ रिकवरी इन इंडियन इकोनॉमी, but despite the recovery in Indian economy, despite the surge in demand and a high rise in economic activities, there is some unstable macroeconomic variable. जैसे अभी हमारी कंट्री का सिचुएशन है कि आफ्टर कोविड रिकवरी एंड सक्सेसफुल राउंड्स ऑफ वैक्सीनेशन, there has been a surge in urban and rural demand. Economic activities have picked up, people are returning back to the offices. All these facts are happening, but at the same time, inflation is also skyrocketing because of hike in petroleum and diesel prices. Because of hike in prices of food commodities. CPI, food basket inflation is also increasing. Geopolitical crisis, Sri Lankan economy का कितना बड़ा crisis हो गया. You all are aware of that, right? So ऐसा हमेशा नहीं होता कि RBI जो चाहता है गवर्नमेंट भी वो चाहता है. तो उस सिनेरियो में स्टेबिलिटी और बैलेंस स्ट्राइक करने के लिए there is contribution of RBI and there is input from the central government as well in order to balance the objective of macroeconomic stability and use the monetary policy in such a way that it complements economic growth. Every political party first aims its economy to grow. Macroeconomic stability is secondary to it. But central bank ka priority is macroeconomic stability. Economic growth may be secondary to it. So to strike a balance, the Monetary Policy Committee consists of members both from the Reserve Bank of India as well as the central government. I hope it is very clear. And क्योंकि आपको इसका objective पता, you will never ever forget the constitution of the membership of the Monetary Policy Committee. Gotcha. So this category of appointment must be from persons of ability, integrity, standing, of course, eligibility criteria, excellence in the level of performance. All these factors are important for the appointment of these 3 persons by the central government. So it's quite obvious, right? Inflation targeting क्या होता है? We all know Monetary Policy Committee क्या होती है, उसका objective is inflation targeting. But what is inflation targeting? To achieve a level of inflation within a specified time horizon, right? Simply means bringing inflation to a targeted level within a specific time horizon. Within a specific time horizon is inflation targeting. Okay, और इसका history क्या है? 2014 में कमिटी आई थी named as report of expert committee to revise and strengthen monetary policy framework 2014, जिसको popularly known कहा जाता है उरीजीत पटेल कमिटी. You all are aware of it. 2014 में constitute हुई थी उरीजीत पटेल कमिटी, and the committee found out that be it WPI wholesale price index or be it consumer price index, Indian economy has been witnessing a persistent hike in inflationary level for the past few years, right? For the past decade itself. तो CPI consumers को affect करता है, WPI that is wholesale price index producers को affect करता है in the form of high cost. And these high costs have adverse effect in the market. It leads to malpractices and market failure. For example, black marketing होने लगती है. That affects fair price discovery mechanism. That hampers the fair play of market mechanism. Okay, and also tax evasion जैसे consequences are also a result of increase in cost incurred by the consumers and producers. So all these factors, taking all these factors into account, the Arijit Patel committee recommended that from now on, the objective of Monetary Policy Committee should be to practice inflation targeting. अगर Indian economy inflation को target कर सकती है तो that can be the root cause to many problems, and if we start targeting inflation, those many problems, supply side, demand side bottlenecks, they can be addressed in terms of easing of costs, fair price discovery mechanisms, improvement in tax compatibility, so tax compliance, sorry. So all these factors were responsible for the government to undertake inflation targeting as an objective of Monetary Policy Committee, and ये 2016 में अडॉप्ट हुआ था. इंडियन इकोनॉमी का करंट इन्फ्लेशन टारगेट क्या है? 1 अप्रैल 2021 से लेके 31 मार्च 2026 पाँच साल तक का इन्फ्लेशन टारगेटिंग सेटअप किया है मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी में ने. दैट इज फ्रॉम 2021 टू 2026. इट शुड बी एनीवेयर विद इन द रेंज ऑफ 4% रेंज का इन्फ्लेशन टारगेटिंग है विद a 2% fluctuation on either side. That is, रेंज क्या है इन्फ्लेशन की? 2% तक मिनिमम हो सकता है, 6% तक मैक्सिमम हो सकता है. Right? So you all know this is the floor level, this is the maximum level, this is the optimum level that the Reserve Bank aims to achieve the level of inflation in India. So given all these factors in account, why this range has been taken? So you all should know as aspiring economists of our country that mild inflation is always good for the economy. Mild inflation का implication क्या होता है? That there is a rise in demand. Mild inflation means there is an economic activities are going on. There is a spur in economic activity. So that is the objective of mild inflation, or mild inflation being good for the economy. That is why 4% inflation optimum है. Maximum 6% तक जा सकता है. 2% से नीचे नहीं जाना चाहिए, because then that will be a situation of recession. 2% से कम अगर इन्फ्लेशन हो गया तो that is a recessionary condition that indicates that economic activity has come to a minimum level. So all these factors are responsible. Taking all these factors in account and the nature of Indian economy, ये inflation target has been set up by the Monetary Policy Committee up till 31st of March 2026. Okay, और इंटरेस्ट रेट एंड ओपन मार्केट ऑपरेशंस के थ्रू आरबीआई इन्फ्लेशन टारगेट को अचीव करती है. सो having read about what really is inflation targeting, having read about everything, let's begin. Key recommendations जो हम लोग ये स्लाइड डिस्कस कर रहे हैं मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी रेजोल्यूशन 2223. तो की रिकमेंडेशंस क्या है? पॉलिसी रेपो रेट पहले 5% था, it has been reduced by 1 basis point, that is 4.9%. Standing deposit facility rate 4.65%. Bank rate इतना है. Marginal standing, you can see the parameters, you can see the policy recommendations on the board. Also, along with reduction in these policy rates, the RBI has also decided to focus on the withdrawal of accommodation. So accommodation means liquidity adjustment facility के through RBI liquidity accommodate करती है. It accommodates excess or a crunch in liquidity in the banking system. So over accommodation is also not very healthy for the economy because it disrupts the proper functioning of the market. So keeping that in mind, the monetary policy has focused on limited accommodation or withdrawal of accommodation to some extent, so that inflation remains within the target going forward, while it also supports growth. Okay, we will understand the statement as we go on. We will understand the implications of everything that we have just read, we have just seen. Take a screenshot of it or do whatever, just remember these policy rates. Of course, they can be changed from time to time, but let's have a better look at it. Various tools for inflation targeting. Let's have Let's understand that first before we move on to the main resolution part. वेरियस टूल्स क्या होता है? लिक्विडिटी एडजस्टमेंट फैसिलिटी, एक मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी लिक्विडिटी एडजस्टमेंट फैसिलिटी इज बेसिकली मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी टूल जिसमें रेपो रेट, रिजर्व रेपो रेट एंड टर्म रेपो रेट, ये तीनों उसमें इंक्लूडेड होते हैं. Okay, so that is what it is all about, adjusting liquidity in the banking system. रेपो रेट बेसिकली एक रीपर्चेज अग्रीमेंट होता है. रेपो मीन्स रीपर्चेज ऑप्शन और रीपर्चेज अग्रीमेंट. इट इज अ रेट at which, listen carefully, repo का full form repurchase option. It is a rate at which the RBI provides overnight liquidity to the banks against the collateral of government and other approved securities. So basically क्या होता है? RBI purchases government securities from the banks, and by purchasing government securities, of course, RBI is injecting liquidity in the banking system on an overnight basis. Okay, तो ये बहुत ही short term होता है, and that is what repo is about. So of course, reverse repo rate क्या हो जाएगा? It is the rate at which RBI absorbs the excess liquidity from the banking system. Obviously, repo में RBI was purchasing government securities from the banks and injecting liquidity. Now, if the banks are flush with liquidity because of an overflow of capital and inflow of capital, RBI will use the tool of reverse repo. It will buy government securities from the bank. It will buy government securities from the bank. Okay. So all these, it will sell government securities to the bank. Sorry about that. It will sell government securities from the bank and absorb the excess liquidity with itself. So this is the difference between repo rate and reserve repo rate, reverse repo rate. But you should also take note कि जो government securities का sale and purchase हो रहा है by the RBI, it is basically statutory liquidity ratio remains untouched in it. Okay, banks are not allowed to use government securities maintained in the statutory liquidity ratio or the SLR to conduct reverse repo and repo operations. Okay, so open market operations ये अलग से purchase and sale उसको करना पड़ता है. SLR remains untouched as far as repo and reverse repo is concerned. Why am I telling you this? We'll come to that also. Term repo क्या होता है? We all read repo and reverse repo is overnight liquidity. Term repo थोड़ा short term के लिए होता है. It is a short term liquidity for a longer period and variation in interest rate which the RBI lends liquidity to the bank. Hence, it is officially known as variable rate term repo. And usual duration इसका 7 दिन होता है, 14 दिन. You all know about 7-day, 14-day and 28-day T-bills. T-bills होता है, government securities, commercial papers, all these money market, capital market instruments are used to implement term repo. It is also a kind of repurchase agreement जो LAF facility के अंदर आता है. Only the difference is कि अगर repo and reverse repo is an overnight basis lending to the banks or absorbing liquidity from the banks, it is term repo is meant for a longer period duration. ठीक है. Standing deposit facility absorbs liquidity without any collateral. जितना भी collateral है in the form of government, collateral का मतलब ही यहाँ पे government securities only, not the assets owned by the bank but the government securities or also the kind of assets. Standing deposit facility, it absorbs liquidity, that is the RBI can ask the banks to deposit the extra liquidity lying in their accounts with the RBI without any collateral or a security. So that is standing deposit facility. Okay, this was used when 2016 demonetization में, when the Indian banking system was flush with liquidity. Obviously, government securities का sale and purchase would become limited to absorb the excess liquidity in the banking system. So in that case, standing deposit facility was used. So that is the best example to remember it. marginal standing facility. Now we discussed कि repo और reverse repo में statutory liquidity ratio में जो government securities होती है that remained untouched. But the key difference here between marginal standing repo and marginal standing facility and repo rate is कि यहाँ पे banks use securities under the statutory liquidity ratio. Okay, वर्क वैसे ही करता है मार्जिनल स्टैंडिंग फैसिलिटी जैसे रेपो ऑपरेशंस वर्क करते हैं. Okay, repo operations like the central authority, that is the RBI, is purchasing government securities from the bank to inject them with liquidity. Marginal standing facilities also like repo overnight basis पे use होता है. Okay, it is also used on overnight basis, but the key difference दोनों में ये है कि MSF is pegged at 100 basis points higher than the repo rate. It is pegged at 100 basis point higher than the repo rate, and the banks can use the government securities that they are maintaining under statutory liquidity ratio. Okay, corridor क्या है? Corridor, marginal standing facility rate is the highest corridor, that is 100 basis point higher than the repo rate, and standing deposit facility is the lowest corridor. Standing deposit facility जब introduce नहीं हुई थी तो इससे पहले reverse repo rate was the lowest corridor, but now it is standing deposit facility. It determines the corridor for daily movement and weighted average call money rate. Okay, so now you guys tell me, repo, reverse repo और standing deposit facility में कितने basis points का difference है? पहले it used to be 100 basis point and now it has been changed. You guys tell me in the comments below, standing deposit facility is how many basis point lower than the reverse repo rate? Okay, bank rate क्या है? Bank rate, usually textbook definition of bank rate is that the rate at which RBI lends money to the banks. That is so wrong. That is so wrong. So it is published under section 49 of the RBI 1934. It is the rate at which RBI is ready to buy or rediscount bills of exchange and other commercial papers. So by bank rate is related to the discounting of money market instruments by the RBI. Okay, so bills of exchange या फिर जितने भी commercial papers हैं जो कि MSF रेट के साथ उनका इंटरेस्ट रेट भी चेंज होता रहता है, उसको RBI कौन से रेट कितने रेट पे एब्जॉर्ब करता है? रीडिस्काउंटिंग ऑफ बिल्स. What do you mean rediscounting of bills? Of course, buying the pending bills of exchange of the banks. Of course, this is also used to deal with liquidity crisis in banking sector. Okay, so this is the main definition or objective of bank rate. Okay, section 49 के अंदर ये bank rate publish होती है. It is a gazetted rate. And it is the rate, again, understand, at which RBI buys or rediscounts bills of money or commercial papers. That is, bank rate is related to what? It is related to money market instruments. Market stabilization scheme, it was introduced in the year 2004. Of course, this is also to absorb short-term influx of liquidity in the banking system by the RBI. Short dated government securities जैसे T-bills, 91-day T-bills, right, 108-day और 360-day T-bills, ये sale and purchase के through T-bills के through the trading of T-bills the RBI aims to achieve stabilization in the money market and interest rate. So that is why it is known as market stabilization scheme, and it was introduced in 2004. Okay, so I hope the basic concepts around all the monetary policy instruments were very, very clear to you. In case you still have any doubt, any lingering doubt, you can ask me in the comments below. Okay, moving on to the main part. The main part of this very important presentation is driving factors behind monetary policy resolution. What are the key driving factors behind the monetary policy resolution of 2022 and 23. Global economy has been facing persistently high inflation because of a hike in crude oil prices. Of course, Russia-Ukraine crisis But not only Russia-Ukraine crisis, but also COVID-19 के बाद से there has been a huge disruption in global supply chain, and उसका effect आज भी linger on करता है in the global economic scenario. So that is also one of the factors. Geopolitical tensions, they have subdued supply chain bottlenecks, high inflation, slow growth. All these factors have subdued global economic prospects. Okay, inflation is likely to remain 6% threshold for the first 3 quarters. पहले 3 quarter तक inflation का threshold remain will for the Indian economy. The inflation का threshold will remain 6%, but there is a risk that the rate of inflation may go higher. April 2022 में the rate of inflation, obviously CPI inflation was 7.8%. So of course there is a high risk that there is some rebound in some crisis or the other, and there is a persistently high risk for unmanageable rate of inflation for the Indian economy. Okay, because the situation remains unpredictable, the terrain is unknown. Persistently high pressure could set in motion for a second round effect on headline inflation CPI. So second round effect on headline inflation, this is a line directly written in the monetary policy document itself, जो कि आपको RBI bulletin की website पे मिल जाएगा. It basically means the domino effect. Basically what it implies is कि अगर मान लो present scenario में situation ठीक भी हो जाती है, but then there is an inflation, so it can lead to further inflation for the next few quarters or for the one whole financial year. Okay, so basic aim क्या है monetary policy का, resolution क्या है monetary policy का? To adopt a calibrated approach that balances economic growth, but it also sustains inflation. It also maintains or controls and unchecked inflation or rein in inflation. ऐसा क्यों है? I'll tell you. The Indian economy successfully carried out its vaccination process. The fear of COVID, the lockdown scenario, the Indian economy is now to a large extent released from that. It is a case long gone now. It is a thing of the past now. There is a surge in economic activity. There is a surge in rural and urban demand. Of course, non-gold and non-crude import में भी hike हुआ है, indicating that yes, consumer demand is on the rise. Now, with the consumer demand on the rise, with the high rate of consumption expenditure going on in the Indian economy, obviously the inflation will also see a hike. There will obviously be a hike in inflation because of the high rate of you all know the key, it is a situation of demand pull inflation for the Indian economy. It is a situation of what? Demand pull inflation. एक cost push inflation होता है, एक demand pull inflation होता है. तो this is a classic case of demand pull plus also to some extent cost push inflation because of the hike in crude prices. Main aim. Right, main reason. So CPI headline inflation we all know 7.8% in April 2022. Food inflation, the Indian economy has been witnessing in prices of cereal, milk, fruit, vegetables. जो basic necessity goods होता है उसमें भी inflation है. Of course, fuel inflation is also driving the prices in LPG and petroleum. And core inflation is also hardened across all the sectors and the components. Hardening of core inflation basically means that the inflation is not under control by the RBI. एक set rate होता है that is hard to manipulate. So that is what it basically implies. So all these factors are there. One of the key driving factors behind the present resolution by the Monetary Policy Committee. You can see this graph. This graph that side shows basically CPI inflation का projection है ये on a year-on-year basis. Right? It is high. Most likely to remain in this range. It can go up till maximum 10% तक ये जा सकता है. Probability है, projection है ये. So obviously the risk of inflation remains high, and this is the projection of GDP growth. GDP growth year on year basis पे GDP growth का prediction है for the Indian economy. So यहाँ पे वही criteria हो रहा है जो हम लोगों ने सबसे पहले discuss किया था, that is growth versus inflation. Growth versus inflation is the driving factor behind the monetary policy resolution of 22-23. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look at the final statement. Given by the RBI regarding this. MPC has decided to increase the policy repo rate by 50 basis points to 4.9%. Okay, 4.9%, that is 50 basis points से policy rate RBI ने increase कर दिया. We saw the table in the very beginning itself. Now let's discuss the final resolution. Resolution ultimately क्या है? To remain focused on withdrawal of accommodation, ensure that inflation remains within the target, within the monetary policy target of 2 to 6% without compromising on economic growth. So every monetary policy resolution basically should aim for that. It should aim for inflation remaining within the targeted range without compromising on the economic growth, and this is also the resolution of the Monetary Policy Committee for 22-23. Okay, liquidity, you can also have a look at this point. State of Indian economy हम लोग already discuss कर चुके हैं. Urban and rural development, they continue to grow. Double-digit growth है for the 15th month in a row. The Indian economy has been witnessing a double-digit growth rate 15th month in a row because after lockdown, economic activity has spurred like anything. Liquidity in the banking system, 8.8% M3 money supply increase हुआ है, 12.1% से bank credit increase हुआ, and of course the foreign exchange reserves of our country remain at $601 billion. So yes, the banking system is also robust with a liquidity, with a high rise in supply of banking credit, with an increase in foreign exchange reserves despite the depreciation of currency of the US against the US dollar. Why is that so? That because not only the non-consumption demand is also rising, but also the demand of Indian goods abroad is also rising. Depreciation of currency के साथ क्या होता है? There is a hike in export of goods. So merchandise exports have also they have also increased to an unprecedented high. Agriculture commodities बहुत सारी export हो रही हैं because of the hike in food processing industry in India. Okay, so all these factors, there is an unprecedented increase in the level of export, and also it is complemented by an increase in import levels as well. So on the demand side, the scenario for the Indian economy is very robust. On the demand side, the scenario of the Indian economy is very, very hopeful, bright and positive. But with respect of inflation, yes, the situation is a little out of control. And that is what RBI's monetary policy resolution all about. Okay, that is what RBI's monetary policy resolution all about, to balance inflation without compromising on this the K-shaped recovery of the Indian. अब तो K-shaped recovery भी नहीं है, it is a proper boost of the Indian economy. So having read about all this, let's have a look at the monthly economic report by the Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs. क्या challenges हैं? What are the near-term challenges that are faced by the Indian economy? Why have I taken up this? So that एक overall perspective you are able to build how the monetary policy works in complements the near-term challenges faced by the Indian economy. Okay, so the careful management of short-term risks without sacrificing the hard-earned macroeconomic stability is the key statement given out by the Ministry of Finance, and this is also the key statement by the Monetary Policy Committee. तो सबसे पहली बात फिस्कल डेफिसिट इज एन इशू that is to be dealt by the central government of India because it deals with the public exchequer. Why is fiscal deficit under risk? Because the government of India recently took the initiative to relieve the consumers from the hike in crude oil import prices. Why 6 rupees and 8 rupees का concession दिया है पेट्रोल और डीजल में, right? एक्साइज ड्यूटीज पे रिलैक्सेशन देने के साथ साथ सेस रोड सेस पे भी कंसेशन मिला है. सो ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स कैन कॉज सिग्निफिकेंटली टू द फिस्कल डेफिसिट. ओके, सो rationalization of non-capital expenditure, that is revenue expenditure control karna is the step 1 to achieve fiscal deficit. So the near-term challenge of Indian economy is to rationalize non-capital expenditure spending. Capital expenditure spending is actually good for the economy because it generates employment and everything. But non-capex spending, it does not create any asset, it does not generate any employment. So that is first challenge. That is the first challenge that the Indian economy needs to deal with. Now these are a list of some other important challenges. Economic growth ko sustain karna, one of the key challenges. Now what do you mean by sustained economic growth? Sorry. Basically sustained economic growth basically means to maintain the level of growth of the economy. For example, अगर GDP आज 7.8% से grow कर रहा है, so you have to either increase it or maintain it at that level. The government should put in continuous, consistent efforts to not allow any recessionary activity to come in the economy and interrupt with the trajectory. Reading in inflation, of course, we've discussed at length about it. Current account deficit ko contain karna, because imports are obviously now costlier. Imports are costlier than the exports because of the depreciation of Indian rupee, and some of the key imports for the Indian economy include crude oil and petroleum products. Okay. Maintaining fair value of rupee, of course, is directly related to maintaining current account deficit. Depreciation is still at risk due to an outflow of foreign portfolio inflation. So basically हुआ क्या? Because of the ongoing global economic crisis, US Fed Reserve, the Fed Reserve of US has tightened its interest rate. Tightening of interest rate would mean what? It would mean better rate of return on investments in the US economy. तो जैसे ही इंटरेस्ट रेट हाइक होता है यूएस फेड रिजर्व में, जितने भी शॉर्ट टर्म एंड मीडियम टर्म कैपिटल एंड एफपीआई इन्वेस्टमेंट्स होते हैं इंडियन मार्केट में, they see that okay, now if we withdraw our investments from the Indian economy and invest it in the US economy, given the short term hike in US Fed Reserve interest rate, we will get a better return, we will have windfall gains. Now because of that, there is a sudden capital outflow from the Indian economy, and because of that capital outflow also there is a further depreciation in rupee. Okay, so this is one of the most important challenges that the Indian economy is facing right now. Risk of stagflation, thankfully it remains low, and private sector needs to expand in capacity to generate more employment. And you can actually read, financial sector stability and progress in vaccination has strengthened. We have already discussed this point anyway, so there is no point on repeating. This is important. Right, this point is important, maintaining a fair value of Indian rupee and containing current account deficit. Okay, so this was it. This was it for today's class. I hope you found the session interesting and helpful and useful to an extent. Thank you so much for watching. कोई भी doubt है, you can post it down in the comments below. I will definitely answer that. Okay, see you in the next session. So 9 a.m. daily, I will update you with the status of Indian economy. So the session will be called as status update of the Indian economy. So in that status update, I will cover everything that is important and shared in the RBI bulletin, every important economic news that is there in the current scenario. that will help you till the stage of interview. It will not only help you with the MCQ, ये especially descriptive writing and of course phase 2 के MCQs में ये काफ़ी हद तक काम आ सकता है. I hope it was useful. Do suggest and share your feedback in the comments below. What else do you need from this session? And if you still have any doubt, do post it down. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. See you. Bye-bye.